So why don't we start with each of you introducing yourself and telling us a little bit of how you came together. So Jean, why don't you start?
Right, I'm Jean Holland, and this is my sister Wendy, and this is Jess, and she's my kindred sister.
Yep, mine too.
And I guess to talk about how we started and how we became what we are today, we have to bring it back to the roots of why we started designing. And for me, it was all about the relationship with my grandmother, and she brought these treasures all the time, and they were always little broken bits of jewelry, bead strands. I got this antique box from her that had all these pieces, and they had these beautiful Aurora cut glass pieces in them. And I really started at that age, just really like 10 years old, stringing them on fishing line and remaking jewelry out of old pieces.
And if it was heavy, it was good, right?
Yes, exactly. That was always
It was
hard.
heavy?
Yeah. Right.
So what you're saying is from a very, very young age, you were actually working with vintage jewelry, with old pieces, and appreciating their beauty and their history. So I think that's amazing, and that makes sense to me being here, because this town, if you've not been here, it's a little frozen piece of time. So there you are, building this jewelry at 10 years old and finding this love for that. So then you grow up, and what happens? How did it become part of your career?
Do you want to?
Well, Wendy was creating check jewelry, and she had that same type of love for antiques, and you and Mom had that antique store, which came out of the need of raising your boys.
Right.
And you said you would go to flea markets and garage sales and find these real antiques.
And that came from our grandmother too, because she was like a gypsy at heart, and she would just she would always talk about antiques, and our house was filled with antiques, and we'd walk up these staircases, and there would be like, just feel like alabaster in there. And so we were just like, the touches and the feels and the quality, and she'd always say, if it's heavy, it's good, right?
Yes, exactly. That was always
heavy.
We loved antiques so much, and so it was second nature when we needed to bring in more income for our families, and we wanted to raise our kids, so we opened up antique shops.
So I remember that you had shared with me that you and Jean had discussed you wanted to make this bigger. You wanted to create this vintage jewelry and share it, but there was something missing. And when you met Jess, she was the missing piece.
Yeah,
she was.
We decided that it was too big and too important to do all on our own, and we knew it would take years if we didn't bring in the right people. And you know, both of these ladies are very, very talented, and I love my sissy, and she's an awesome designer. But I feel like one of the biggest gifts that she has is she's a gatherer of wonderful, talented people. And so when she said, we need Jess to bring forth this idea to help us share it with everybody, I was right on board, and I knew it and I felt it too. But she's always the one that knows it first.